This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
DC attack. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Terrorism reared its ugly head last night in our nation's capital. 2 Israeli diplomats, embassy workers, shot dead outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Jewish American Congressman Randy Fine.
This is what globalizing the Intifada looks like. I think what people need to understand is in this instance, it appears the killer just was looking for Jews.
In light of the shooting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has beefed up security at embassies worldwide. Mike Huckabee is the U.S. ambassador to Israel.
It certainly heightens an already tense situation. It reminds people that Jews are being targeted, and this is just very sad and sick.
Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yakil Leiter.
Together we won't be afraid. Together we'll stand, and we're going to overcome moral depravity of people who think that they're going to achieve political gains through murder.
The 30-year-old shooting suspect is from Chicago. He chanted "Free Palestine" as he was taken into custody. The young man and woman murdered had planned to get engaged next week in Jerusalem. On Capitol Hill, a single vote was all it took. By a vote of 215 to 214, the U.S. House has advanced President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill. That spending package includes the president's priorities for tax cuts, national defense, and energy exploration. It also defunds Planned Parenthood. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
The America First agenda is wrapped up into this one big, beautiful bill, and that's why we call it that. And I believe it's going to be, as I've been saying for a long, long time, you've all heard me say, I think it will be one of the most consequential pieces of legislation that Congress has ever passed.
2 Republicans, Thomas Massie of Kentucky and Warren Davidson of Ohio, joined all Democrats in opposing the budget blueprint. The nearly $4 trillion spending package now goes to the Senate for consideration. And they're off. The Memorial Day getaway is underway. Reporter Emily Aketa has the latest from Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey.
We're starting to see those flight delays pile up in this wet and windy weather. Over the next week, some 18 million people are expected to pass through TSA checkpoints to reach their Memorial Day destination. But with this late season nor'easter, many whether going by plane or car are worried about just how long it will take to get there.
A record 45 million of us, U.S., plan to travel for Memorial Day. Gas prices for the holiday are the lowest they've been in over 20 years. Experts say the worst time to be on the roads will be this afternoon and again tomorrow afternoon. If you can, leave early in the morning or later in the evening. Now to New Orleans and that jaw-dropping jailbreak. A week after 10 inmates broke out of jail, half of them remain at large. 3 people have been arrested for aiding in the escape, a maintenance worker at the jail and 2 women on the outside whom police accuse of helping the inmates once they broke out. The Pentagon has accepted a luxury Boeing 747 jetliner as a gift from Qatar for President Trump to use as Air Force One someday. Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin, not a fan of that move.
Yesterday, he brought home a $400 million jumbo jet from the monarch dictator of Qatar, a flying constitutional violation packed with threats of espionage and surveillance.
The aircraft must be retrofitted to meet security requirements. President Trump visited Qatar on his Mideast trip last week. Another stunning showdown in the Oval Office yesterday, a confrontation that was broadcast live to the rest of the world. The president confronting the leader of South Africa, accusing him of allowing the genocide of white Afrikaners. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez.
It started out as a meeting about trade, but it quickly became one of the wilder scenes inside the Oval Office so far this term, reminiscent of that clash with Ukraine's president a few months ago.
In light of the genocide accusations, the Trump administration is fast-tracking the refugee status of white minorities minority South African farmers. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. going public today with his report on how to, quote, make America healthy again. That report calls for larger clinical trials of childhood vaccines. Kennedy will also condemn the use of pesticides on farms and the presence of toxins in processed food. More startling revelations today about Joe Biden's inner circle and efforts to hide his cognitive decline even while he contemplated a re-election bid. Author Alex Thompson says the Biden camp staged a fake town hall last year, but the ex-president performed so badly they couldn't use any of the footage.
This fake town hall was in order to film it so they could make it into campaign commercials. They filmed it in Delaware with supporters. But Joe Biden, at this point, this is the spring of 2024, Joe Biden's town hall, which was closed to press, was so bad that campaign officials determined that it was not usable for a campaign commercial.
Now there's a formal investigation in Congress into Biden's declining health. Did White House staffers intentionally hide that declining health from the public? Florida Congressman Randy Fine.
I think this is the biggest political scandal in American history. It appeared for somewhere between 1 and 2 years we had no president, and we literally had staff running the country. And they knowingly did this. And I think a lot of people need to go to jail.
Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson is leading the probe into the handling of the ex-president's health. A much celebrated and equally maligned NFL rule will stay in place, much to the chagrin of some and to the happiness of others. Steve Kafin at CBS News.
Love it or hate it, NFL fans will still see the tush push.
Hurts pushing through, got to stop him at some point here.
Jalen Hurts and the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles nearly perfected the short yardage play, and a bid to ban it failed at the NFL owners' meetings. CBS Sports NFL writer Jeff Kerr.
One team runs this play better than pretty much anybody else, and they run more frequently than everybody else.
22 teams voted in favor of the ban. The measure needed 24 votes.
Steve Kafin reporting, and still to come on the Noon Report. Shapiro featured in Biden book. More on the school budget vote and Pennsylvania's new cell phone ban.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. The soggy, chilly conditions stick around for a while. We'll have forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Let's check what's going on across New York and Pennsylvania. Security being beefed up at Jewish locations in New York City today following last night's shooting deaths of 2 Israeli diplomats. It happened in our nation's capital. Scott Pringle has more.
A suspect's in custody and shouted "Free Palestine" while being arrested after the shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum Wednesday night. Authorities say 2 embassy staffers were shot and killed during a night out, and they were about to get engaged. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he's directing the NYPD to step up security at sensitive places connected to the Jewish community. New York has the largest Jewish population in the world outside of Israel. Adams says anti-Semitic violence has no place in our country. Scott Pringle, New York.
Almost 97% of New York school budgets were approved by voters back on Tuesday. 24 spending proposals were shot down. David Albert is with the State School Boards Association.
Generally, what happens with budget defeats, it could be a number of different factors. There's different issues in every district, but sometimes there might be a tax levy increase that might be just a bit much for the taxpayers in the district, or there could be extenuating circumstances. Sometimes we see issues that are controversial arise in a district, and that can affect budget passage.
In districts where budgets failed, a revote will happen on June 17th. If they fail for a second time, austerity measures or contingency plans must be adopted. Gas-powered school buses are still more popular than their electric counterparts. New York voters defeated several ballot initiatives Tuesday that would have converted fleets from gas to electric. These Southern Tier voters say there are too many questions about the benefits of going electric.
I think it's premature to purchase them now because I don't think the technology is really there yet.
I understand the state makes them do it, but I don't think that's such a good idea.
Electric school buses cost up to 4 times more than their traditional diesel counterparts. There's also concern about their weight and what that could do to roads and bridges, not to mention the charging charging issues that some districts have with EVs. Still, Governor Hochul's mandated that all school districts statewide convert all of their school buses to electric by the year 2035. Police in Syracuse are cracking down on motorists who illegally pass stopped school buses, electric or not. This has happened way too often. Drivers who do can face a fine of up to $300. Specially designed cameras on school buses will assist in that law enforcement effort in Syracuse. 2 weeks from today, it'll be illegal to use a handheld phone while driving in Pennsylvania. More on that from Family Life's Brian Query.
The new law, signed 1 year ago, goes into effect on June 5th and expands the state's restrictions on cell phone use while driving. Those who are caught violating the law will receive written warnings until June 5th of 2026, when a fine of $50 could be imposed for talking on a cell phone. Using Bluetooth and hands-free devices to make calls is still allowed, as is using the phone during an emergency. The law also applies to vehicles at traffic signals or stop signs. The law is named for Paul Miller Jr., who was killed in a 2010 crash in Monroe County that was the result of a distracted driver. Miller's family has since advocated for tougher laws. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is shedding light on a conversation he had with former President Biden last year about his electability. According to the book Original Sin, Shapiro met with Biden in Harrisburg in early July and discussed his declining support in the Commonwealth. At an event in Scranton yesterday, Shapiro said he was very clear with Biden about his concerns with electability. Biden ended his re-election campaign 2 weeks after his conversation with Governor Shapiro. U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York wants legislation that would make childbirth free of charge for families with private insurance. The Supporting Healthy Moms and Babies Act requires insurance companies cover the many costs associated with childbirth.
Requiring that insurance fully cover childbirth will provide families with a financial predictability and stability and put them in a better place to care for their kids.
Senator Gillibrand says more must be done to lower the astronomical cost of having a baby. A man was killed by his own pet this week in Monroe County, New York, town of Riga, just outside Rochester. 46-year-old Richard Dembrowski was attacked by his dog in his home. Police say the dog, a mixed breed, was put inside a crate by family members at the scene.
We respond to a lot of dog bite incidents. A lot of times it's, a neighbor, somebody walking by. This was in a house. It was the man's pet. I really don't know if there's anything that could have prevented this without knowing all of the history and everything that happened. It's a humbling reminder to everybody that these are animals.
Monroe County, New York Sheriff's Deputy Brendan Hurley telling Wham! News that the dog has been euthanized. They're calling it a miracle in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Monday night, a medical helicopter making an emergency landing in the front yard of a White Marsh Township home. The chopper suffered a mechanical issue. White Marsh Police Chief Christopher Ward.
We got very lucky tonight. It's a miracle. The pilot did an amazing job from all accounts. As out of control as it was, he controlled it into an area and was able to put it down without striking, luckily for us, any homes, any vehicles, or any people.
There were no patients aboard the chopper. The crew of 3 walked away from the crash unharmed. The Empire State stands out when it comes to state parks. USA Today conducting a nationwide vote to determine the best state parks in America. And Letchworth State Park in Western New York topped the best 10 list. How about that? Wyoming County officials say Letchworth won that same contest 10 years ago. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the Knicks let their foots off the gas, and it cost them dearly. Up by 14 points with 3 minutes to play, New York figured they had it in the bag. But as they say, it ain't over till it's over. The Pacers came storming back, and on a high, bouncing shot that came back down through the hoop at the buzzer, the game was tied. Tyrese Halliburton made that buzzer beater, and then he and Indiana outscored New York in overtime 13-10, and they take game one, 138-135. Halliburton finished with 31 points and 11 assists. Aaron Nesmith chipped in with 30 points. Jalen Brunson, a game-high 43 for the Knicks. One other NBA note, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Oklahoma City has been named the MVP for the season. He averaged nearly 33 points a game. On the ice, how about the Dallas Stars? They beat Edmonton 6-3 to take a 1-0 lead in their best-of-7 series. Dallas scored 5 unanswered goals in the third period to turn a 3-1 deficit into that 6-3 victory. On to baseball, the Yankees got a walk-off ninth-inning home run from Jason Dominguez, and they beat the Rangers 4-3. The Mets salvaged their series finale against Boston 5-1. It is 6 straight wins for the Phillies after they knocked off the Rockies 9-5, and the Pirates were 3-1 winners over the Reds. Elsewhere in the bigs, your winners were the Twins in Game 1, the Guardians in Game 2. The Rays, Mariners, Angels, Cubs, Dodgers, Orioles, Tigers, Royals, and Blue Jays. Toronto walloped San Diego 14-0. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you, Randy. And still to come on the Noon Report, terrorism in D.C., a candid conversation about the dangers of cannabis. And at the end of the broadcast, the pregnant newscaster in Schenectady.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In a scene from the classic PBS animated series Arthur, Buster the Rabbit asked in shock, "You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?" Obviously, Buster was more than a little naive. In the 20 years since that episode aired, the internet has all but proven itself to be a bottomless source of confusion, propaganda, and misinformation. But until recently, the online lies have all come from actual people. That's no longer the case. Just recently, a team of researchers at the University of Zurich performed a highly questionable experiment using AI bots impersonating real people. Apparently, these bots were very effective at changing the beliefs of people on Reddit. In their paper, which was entitled "Can AI Change Your View? Evidence from a Large-Scale Online Field Experiment," these researchers detailed just how they tasked AI bots to study user profiles on Reddit without their knowledge in order to find their vulnerabilities. Then the bots posed as real people in forums and tried to persuade these human users of their left-leaning beliefs. It all worked frighteningly well. The researchers estimated that the AI bots, some of which pretended to be rape victims, LGBTQ, or government employees, achieved a persuasion rate that was 6 times that of humans. On topics ranging from abortion to whether Christianity is good for the world, the bots deployed arguments fine-tuned to exploit vulnerabilities, often using lies, misinformation, or highly debatable claims. And let me say again, it actually worked. After conversing with the undercover bots, a whole lot of people changed their minds. Tech entrepreneur Mario Nawfal put it this way: "This experiment should chill anyone who values authentic human discourse, because these digital ghosts, as he put it, cross critical ethical lines, fabricating over 1,500 comments, quote, each precisely calibrated to exploit cognitive vulnerabilities of their human targets," end quote. Also, all of this was done without the knowledge or consent of anyone who was targeted, whose views, for all we know, could be permanently altered now by these fake and dishonest exchanges. Now, the experiment has now been roundly condemned by Reddit forum moderators, and rightly so. Still, as Nawfal pointed out, it raises a frightening and a much bigger question. How many other digital conversations are currently being shaped by invisible algorithmic hands? And is the person you're arguing with online right now even a person? All the dizzying technological possibilities of our age only expose just how far our technology has outrun our ethics, how our ability to do things has overwhelmed our ability to think about whether we should do those things. The need of this hour is the type of discernment that Paul talked about, the type that he urged his churches on toward. And from the very beginning, that's been a primary mission of Breakpoint, to help cultivate discernment in God's people so that they can live faithfully and courageously in this confused cultural moment. And from the very beginning, God has made it possible for Breakpoint to be free and available because of friends and donors like you. June 30th is the final day of our fiscal year. Would you consider financially supporting the Colson Center to help keep Breakpoint cultivating the kind of discernment that the church needs in order to be the church in this cultural moment? You can give a one-time gift or become a Colson Center Cornerstone monthly partner by visiting colsoncenter.org/May. That's colsoncenter.org/May. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet.
All right, John, thank you much. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. The call for this afternoon: rain off and on, cloudy, damp, chilly, patchy fog, and temperatures not moving much, holding pretty much upper 40s and 50s tonight and tomorrow. Cloudy, damp, chilly, rain at times, 40s tonight, low to mid 50s tomorrow. Still a couple of showers Saturday, mostly cloudy, high in the 50s, but it does look to be gradually improving as the holiday weekend wears on. We have a pretty pleasant day here for Monday, Memorial Day.
All right, Kevin, that'll be something to look forward to. Thank you. And this is the Noon Report of Family Life, a Thursday edition, the 22nd of May. Lots to get to today. Here's our top story in review. The recent wave of anti-Semitic rhetoric on America's college campuses escalated into murder last night. 2 Israeli diplomats shot dead as they were leaving a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Both worked at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. The 30-year-old suspect from Chicago shouted "Free Palestine" as he was taken into custody. Israeli Ambassador Yakil Leiter.
The couple that was gunned down in the name of Free Palestine. It's a young couple about to be engaged. The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem.
Congressman Randy Fine says violent anti-Semitic rhetoric festering on America's university campuses may have fueled this tragedy.
Well, the campus protests themselves were violent. Look, the left tried to say that they weren't, but they were violent. Yes, no one was killed, but I don't know that it was for lack of trying. And of course, I'm worried. I mean, we live in a world where the left literally calls for violence against Jews every day. I don't know why we're surprised when they actually do it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has beefed up security at embassies worldwide in light of the shooting. By a single vote, House Republicans have approved the so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill, so critical to President Trump's agenda. That vote was 215 to 214. Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie and Ohio GOP Congressman Warren Davidson joined all Democrats in opposing the nearly $4 trillion package. The funding measure includes the president's priorities for national security, tax cuts, energy exploration, and military readiness. It also defunds Planned Parenthood. Now to New Orleans and the investigation into last week's jaw-dropping jailbreak. Authorities have arrested 2 more people in connection to that security incident.
As the search enters day 7, half of the inmates that broke out of this jail here are still on the loose. Now authorities are ramping up their search efforts as they begin to crack down on people they believed helped some of these fugitives still on the loose.
Correspondent George Solis says 5 of the 10 men are still on the lam. 2 women accused of helping the inmates after they escaped have also been arrested. So too has a jail maintenance worker accused of turning the water off in a jail cell to aid in the breakout. A much discussed luxury jet from Qatar has now been accepted by the Trump administration.
In the Oval Office, President Trump sharply chastised the reporter for asking about
a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing.
The Pentagon says the Boeing 747 was accepted in accordance with all federal rules and regulations, but it is unclear where the money, $1 billion or more, would come from to retrofit the plane, and lawmakers are already asking questions. Allison Keyes, Washington.
Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. going public today with his report on how to, quote, make America healthy again. That report calls for larger clinical trials of childhood vaccines. Kennedy also condemning the use of pesticides on farms and the presence of toxins in in processed food. A national theater chain is offering $1 movies to keep the kids busy this summer. Regal Cinemas has over 5,700 screens at 400 multiplexes around the country. The theater chain will offer the $1 movie deals on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings all summer long, and the savings begin June the 10th. You're listening to the Noon Report for Thursday on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and with me today, PA Family's Chief Strategy Officer, Dan Bartkowiak. We're talking recreational marijuana. Pennsylvania is a breath away from legalizing recreational marijuana, Dan. A bill passed the House by a single vote on May 7th, and it's looking like the Senate will write and pass its own version of the bill soon. A month ago, this was chatter in a hallway without a single piece of legislation up for a full vote. What's going on?
In a matter of just days, 173-page bill was advanced through our Pennsylvania House, all Democrats voting yes, all Republicans voting no. Ultimately, it's taking a commercialized sale of industrial marijuana, high potencies. What we're seeing with mental health, what we're seeing in schools, healthcare, so many problems in states legalizing this. Sadly, we're seeing more addiction for profit being the priority in Pennsylvania, at least in that vote. So certainly House Bill 1200 that is doing this, looking to have state stores being the model that it's shown. And frankly, too, it also had a provision that's unconstitutional that is virtually going to force any municipality to have a pot shop. It really is some of the worst that we see in politics, the rush job forcing this upon communities. So there really is just a lack of understanding of the harm that this is bringing. Even Governor Shapiro was all about this is about economic. Really, that should not be. It shouldn't be dollar signs as the lens. It should be what is the best for public health, safety, the well-being of children and families. If that was our lens, the public health and safety, we really wouldn't be seeing this happen.
The headlines are reading dead on arrival marijuana bill sent to the PA Senate. What say you?
This particular bill using state store, it's not what the industry wants. They want to get the profits themselves. And so they've been heavily lobbying against the state store model. And so really this is not over. Even though the model with House Bill 1200 going to the Senate may not advance, I think the issue is still something that could advance in both chambers. So we really need to engage our elected officials in understanding the reality of what commercialized sale of industrialized marijuana will do, and hear from families that are ravaged by the marijuana use of today, the high potencies, the concentrates and edibles, the forms that we see today. It's unlike what I had when I was younger. It needs to be recognized in saying we don't want to see this commercialized in our state. I was in high school 20 years ago. The THC content, the psychoactive component of marijuana, was single digits, 3% THC, even less than that. Today, it's anywhere between 20, 30% THC flower, and you have all these concentrates, edibles. Vaping wasn't around when I was in high school. Now you have superintendents with drawers full of vape pens. I'm hearing from families that they're finding peers giving this to them because it can be odorless. You can do it in school where teachers aren't understanding, and it's leading to a variety of problems. It's leading to kids on a path to schizophrenia and mental health problems. That's what needs to be better understood here in Pennsylvania. In the school district in Detroit, Michigan, the largest school district, before legalization 2 years prior, they had under 300 drug offenses in their school. The 2 years after legalization, 1,800. This is a problem that we're seeing when you commercialize the sale, increase the access to these types of harmful products. And so it needs to be better understood, and that's where constituents, families, getting in touch with our elected officials, because that's who's going to decide this policy. It's not a ballot referendum here in Pennsylvania. It's going to be lawmakers deciding this policy. So we have to be in touch with our state senator, state representative, in saying no to this problematic policy.
Democrats are pushing this hard as a big moneymaker. In fact, they're saying $500 million in the first year. The Republican line is that the money isn't worth the cost. Tell me why.
If we understand what marijuana does, I'm frustrated when I hear a Democrat on the House floor saying we need a safe product and looking at dollar signs for that. Understand that marijuana use is not safe, and no state has met any type of revenue projections. It also doesn't calculate often the costs. Colorado, there was a study done for every dollar in revenue, $4.50 in costs. You look at healthcare, you look at education, you look at workplace areas, you look at DUIs that increase. All of that comes at a cost. What is that human cost when it comes to this effort here in Pennsylvania? And sadly, it's looking at all dollar signs. It's just not the lens we should have. Every medical association points against it. If you look at the evidence, you look at more teens using this in states that legalize. I mean, it's just, frankly, if you put a pot shop throughout Pennsylvania, in Colorado, there's more pot shops than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. When that happens, you're going to increase access. You're going to have more young people thinking this is okay to use, and it's leading to more problems. We should be rejecting this wholeheartedly here in Pennsylvania.
Learn more at PAFamily.org.
All right, thank you, Sarah. That was Dan Barkowiak at the Pennsylvania Family Institute for this week's edition of Faith Under Fire. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Faith Under Fire, along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The area of low pressure that has brought several days of severe weather to the heartland and has brought our rain of late is transferring its energy to a new storm along the upper Mid-Atlantic coast. That'll turn into a nor'easter, bring rain and wind to the northeast coast with snow in the tallest summits of northern New England. And for us, it means more rain and chill for another day or two. The call for this afternoon, rain off and on, cloudy, damp, chilly, patchy fog. And temperatures not moving much, holding pretty much upper 40s and 50s tonight and tomorrow. Cloudy, damp, chilly, rain at times. 40s tonight, low to mid 50s tomorrow. Still a couple of showers Saturday, mostly cloudy, high in the 50s, but it does look to be gradually improving as the holiday weekend wears on. We have a pretty pleasant day here for Monday, Memorial Day.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Finally at noon, from breaking news to breaking water. Check this out. A morning news anchor woman at a CBS affiliate in Schenectady, New York, showed her perseverance big time yesterday. Olivia Jaquith reported for work Wednesday morning despite being 2 days past her due date to give birth to her first child. Then came the breaking news.
Good Wednesday morning. I'm Olivia Jaquith. And I'm Julia Dunn. We do have some breaking news this morning, literally. Yes. Olivia's water has broke. That's right. And she is anchoring the news now in active labor. Early labor.
Yeah, despite her early labor, Jaquith stayed at the anchor desk for the entire 3-hour morning show before heading to the hospital. Now that is job dedication. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, May 22nd. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.